Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Annie.
And I am Dillon.
And I'm Tookie.
Whoa.
Thank you for joining us. On this show, we love to talk about games that we like or games that we don't like. We're always happy to rant, rave, and ramble about them. And usually we ask, what is this game? But today we have kind of a special episode going on. It's near the holidays, so I figured we would just kind of keep it nice and easy. Not a lot of people have time to game right now. So we're going to just kind of talk about what games we like and, just keep it nice and easy. We have our famous guest with us, everybody's favorite puppet, Tookie. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yay! I'm sorry, N.A. Tookie jumped the gun. Tookie is so excited to be here and talk about video games with you. And I thought you would... Wait, didn't it say Peter? Who's Peter?
Peter was the co-host that I started the show with. He did the first 8 episodes, and then Dillon and I met through a booking on Harrison Young because a couple of other people fell through. So we were both kind of backup options, and we both just kind of met there.
Holy crap.
Dillon was like, oh, you need a co-host, and I'm a person who likes to audition for co-hosts. So we just kind of hit it off from there. So Dillon's been here every other week since then.
Well, that is fantastic. Yes, I was going to say Peter is very handsome. He looks just like Dillon from somewhere. And, that is fantastic. You both were guests on Harrison Young's show at the same time?
That's right. We were booked, and then Harrison Young just did a simple interview. He just asked a couple of questions, like where we're from, what we grew up doing, and stuff like that. Just really basic interview questions.
It wasn't the hard-hitting Harrison Young interview that we know him for. Just a quick get to know you.
Yes, I keep missing Harrison Young's calls, and I know he likes to talk on the phone, and Tookie hates talking on the phone. So we haven't been able to really connect, but I do plan on doing a show at some point. But that's fantastic. You guys are celebrities.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I try not to let my ego get too big.
That's fantastic.
D tier celebrities, not on the Tookie tier. Very happy to have you on the show, Tookie.
Well, thank you. It is fantastic to be here. Let's talk video games, Peter.
So both of you are a little bit older than me. Tookie's actually younger than me. It's weird. I mean, you're 1 year old, but you're older than me at the same. I don't know. Whatever. Time works funny.
Years are strange.
Tookie, whenever you were just a little tiny Tookie, what kind of games did you like? What game console did you really start playing as a young Tookie?
Well, I can vividly remember when my neighbor across the street got the NES system and watching Super Mario for the first time. It was mind-blowing. And I think it was even mind-blowing for my dad because he went out and bought the Nintendo the next day, and I don't think I even asked him for it. And I was like, holy crap, we have one of these now too. And then I remember vividly that summer, all the men, a bunch of families, there were 4 families who rented out a beach house. And for the entire week, all the men would do, instead of going to the beach and hanging out, was playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
I was going to guess Contra. Contra is a fun 2-player, but Mike Tyson's Punch-Out definitely did you see how far each individual person would go?
Yes.
Or one person gets Soda Popinski and then the next...
No, it was to see, who could get to Mike Tyson and then get their ass beat immediately. But I just remember because all the wives were really pissed off. They're like, why the fuck do we order this or rent this cat or beach house for a week when all you guys want to do is play that fucking video game? And
the beach house was on the wives, I guess.
Yes.
We could have done this at home.
Yes, exactly. It was fantastic, though. Tookie is very vivid. But yeah, the NES, the original NES, has a special place in Tookie's heart. I'm sure people have heard it, but I was actually part of I think it was either 1992 or 1990, the Nintendo World Championships.
You were a part of it?
Yeah, I was in it. Like, they had arcade machines set up at the local Sears, and they had a tournament of Super Mario Brothers. And since I had the NES for at least a year, I kicked the shit out of all these other kids. And the prize was to go to the Meadowlands, where the New Jersey Devils and the New Jersey Nets played, and the entire arena was set up for the Nintendo World Championships. It was exactly like that movie, The Wizard. If you ever saw
lived
that.
The Wizard, that was amazing, and it was amazing in The Wizard that they were introduced to Mario 3, and they already knew how to get the secret blocks and the secret whistle and everything. So very intuitive on The Wizard.
That movie messes with my memory of the Nintendo World Championships, because I always think that I saw the premiere of Super Mario Brothers 3, but it was actually, from that movie. And but yeah, it was exactly the same thing. Like, you had to play a round of Mario, a round of Rad Racer, a round of Metroid, and then I think some kind of Zelda. And it was Tookie could not get past the Rad Racer part. Rad Racer sucks a dick. Pardon my language, Annie.
Is that Rad Racer or Rat Racer?
Rad. I think it was called Rad Racer.
I'm not familiar with that. There was this little Rat Racer game for the Game Boy Color, I believe, where you just played like a little RC car, and it was top down, and you would do like tricks inside of a kid's bedroom, run away from the cat, kind of go along the edge of the bathtub. I thought it was a pretty cool game, especially for the Game Boy.
That's fantastic. I've never heard of that game.
My brother had the Rad Racer for the Game Boy. And I had two older brothers, so I recall the NES. Actually, a very similar story to All the Men just paying no attention. Your dad going out getting it immediately. The Atari 2600. My dad bought for my brothers one Christmas, and he loved it so much he called out of work. Like, he missed 2 days of work in 25 years, and one was because he was sick. The other was because he bought the Atari 2600 and could not put down Pitfall. And they actually sold the Atari before I came around, but they still had a bunch of games. And I was like, oh, I want to play these. Well, we can't. And no one gave a shit about old games at that point. We couldn't give them away. We either had to destroy them or just kind of look at them. And I actually have vivid memories of Super Mario 3 coming out. I was just starting to make memories around early 1990 when Super Mario 3 and then the Tanuki suit. My cousins came over. It was a big event that they got the Super Mario 3. And then my household turned into a Sega household after that. I got the Genesis, and my cousins got the Super NES. So to play Mario World, I had to go over and spend the night with my cousins, where my house was the Sonic house.
Yes. Tookie was a spoiled brat, so he had Super Nintendo and Sega, but Tookie definitely liked the Super Nintendo better than Sega. I remember only wanting Sega so I can play Booger Man. It sucked.
And I actually never played Booger Man. I missed out on Booger Man.
It sucks.
It's a bad game.
A game that sucks that I had a lot of fun with on the NES was Roger Rabbit. I didn't realize how much it fucking sucked, but it was an open world game where you play as Eddie and Roger is just following you around. So it seemed amazing.
Yes, that game is so frustrating. You had to drop things, and then there were certain items that were used as weapons. But yeah, that game was so hard. I used to get to like when you get the taxi at some point, and you have to drive around, or maybe that was kind of... Was that immediate?
Benny the Taxi came, and you could ride him around.
Yes.
It was very rare that I actually blew up the tunnel to Toontown and got to Toontown.
Yes.
And I couldn't read at that time. Like, the weasels would hold up Roger Rabbit, and you had to give the punchline to a gag. I couldn't read, so I was just hitting up and down, and hopefully they wouldn't kill him.
Yes. Oh, that game was so frustrating. You just brought back years of frustration to Tookie. The Roger Rabbit game was just as hard as the original Ninja Turtles game for NES.
Oh, that game is water level. The water level on the turtle was just it's bullshit.
Yeah, you would lose like at least 3 turtles on just that level alone.
The Ninja Turtle games are notoriously hard, even all the way up until the GameCube. they had a kind of a 3D beat 'em up game, and as soon as you started getting past, I think, like level 3 or 4, the game was so unbelievably hard that, like, when I was a kid, I felt like I had to use the cheat codes that were provided to me in, like, the back of I think they were called Game Power or something like that. There were magazines. I have a bunch
There
of
was a
them.
Nintendo Power. Was there a Game Power as well? Because I had the Nintendo Power subscription there for a few years.
Prima Guides or something like that. It was like one of the Prima Guides books because they used to sell them at Target, and I would have to convince my parents to wait until they got marked down and the game is no longer relevant. They would be like 50 cents or something for the notebook or the like guidebook, and for games that we didn't even have, I'd be like, come on, there's like a big pile of them. Can we just get them? I mean, at least I can read them. You don't have to buy me the games, but I can enjoy the stupid little manuals.
The guidebook, especially for the game, was a must for some games, like Beavis and Butthead on Genesis, where you have tickets to go see Gwar, and they get shredded up, and you're spending the whole games looking for your pieces of the Gwar tickets. And some of those are just so fucking cryptic. Some you can figure out on your own, but some... I would go to the local bookstore, and they had the strategy guide in there, and oop, I'm not going to buy this, but okay, that's how I get that ticket. Never got to see Gwar without the cheat codes.
Oh, yes, that's funny. I actually watched a walkthrough of that game because it was one of those games, just like Roger Rabbit, I hadn't thought about in forever. And then I think we were doing the 90s show, and I started thinking about how hard Beavis and Butthead video games were. And I was like, oh, I never got past a certain part for the Sega one. And then, I watched it. And it's funny because then you realize, oh, this is all crap and there's really nothing at the end anyway. It's just a stupid cartoon. But maybe that's just me looking at it now.
The SNES crowd, they actually got like a platformer that was an actual game rather than just cryptic puzzles that you had to like develop the game in order to know the solution to.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Because I think I had the Super Nintendo one too. Again, Tookie was a spoiled brat. But the best Beavis and Butthead game by far was for the computer, and it was called Virtual Stupidity. Did you play that?
My cousins had that one. Yes. Virtual Stupidity, where one of the mini games where you were spitting off the roof of the school.
Yes.
I remember that was one of the early ones. And just the once again, those early PC games had the very cryptic ways that you had to win. There was just like this little piece of trash that my cousin was like, you need to pick that up, and got you into the coffee shop later. I don't know if Cornholio was there, but I remember the episode where Beavis drank too much coffee and did an open mic as Cornholio.
Yes, that is exactly. That's not the first one. I think the first one was at Stewart's house, right? That's when he first became Cornholio, or was it at the open mic?
I think the open mic was was one of the second or third. I actually saw recently there were only 4 appearances of Cornholio, but he was so iconic that the first one was Stewart's house with like the whatever breakfast.
Yes, breakfast burritos, and they were disappointed because they had eggs. They were like, "Oh, there's eggs in mine." I was like,
"What do you got?"
Yeah.
Oh, a Halloween episode. That was another one. One of the Halloween episodes. He ate too much candy, and the Cornholio came out.
So is that just episodes 4? Because I know he was in the movie and all that stuff, but
that must have been his 5th appearance. The video I saw, I spent damn near an hour. It was a psychological breakdown on Beavis and Butthead that was pretty well done.
I've watched videos like that too, like a video where they review every single episode of Beavis and Butthead. This was before I started doing all this live streaming, so I had more time back then. But I get sucked into that. But back to the video games, another series of video games that I hated as a kid but wanted to love were Simpson video games. Those were cryptic as hell too.
Bart versus the Space Aliens. Yes. They released that on every single system. Yeah, I didn't make it past level 2 on Bart versus the Space Aliens.
The hats, right?
The stupid fucking hats. Yeah, I was able to paint all the purple things or paint things purple.
Yes, you had to spray paint things purple or red. Yeah, the purple thing's red.
One or the other.
Did either of you ever play the Simpsons game Hit and Run?
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
I wish I would have.
That one was really good. And like Dillon, if you're ever going to go back and just play like silly, simple games from the past, Simpsons Hit and Run is actually a really good game. It has a half decent story, and it's basically GTA, but in Simpsons, you had the ability to just kind of like steal random people's cars, and you could unlock new cars and kind of like store your own things, get new outfits. It was way ahead of its time, and there was so much to do, and it was so cool to be able to drive around in the town.
I did play the one before that where it was like a Simpsons Crazy Taxi, whichever that one was. And that was just a fun little thing to go around Springfield in itself because Virtual Bart. I remember really wanting to like that one on the Genesis. A lot of the Simpsons games, Virtual Bart, and there was another where you're in Bart's Dreams.
Bart's Nightmare.
Bart's Nightmare, that were just mini games.
Sucked, but it could have been so good, but it sucked.
Some of the mini games aren't bad, but yeah, some of them are fucking awful.
Yeah, overall they were all bad. But Annie, you are right. The Simpsons Hit and Run was a good game, and then I think they made one for the Xbox 360 that was like an open world Simpsons game that I kind of got sucked into for a while, and I can't remember the name of it. But that was a pretty good one, too. But the early Nintendo Simpsons games really sucked.
They were just throwing stuff out there. The Simpsons arcade game, unfortunately, never got a home port. I finally ended up beating it on... now they have arcades around nowadays that are quarter free, that are just free play, and you pay for
Chuck
like...
E. Cheese.
I didn't know Chuck E. Cheese
You get a card. Yes, it's so great. Yeah, you get a card. You pay for time. It's fantastic.
Like, you go to Chuck E. Cheese now?
Oh, yeah. I go to Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
El Horrible's sister, he does have an excuse.
I have a 4-year-old sister.
It is odd, the solo adults. I used to work with a guy who liked to go to Chuck E. Cheese just by himself and eat the pizza.
Oh, that is weird.
I was more shocked to hear that place is even open anymore. I think all the ones anywhere near me have closed down long ago.
Well, you know what's weird is they got rid of all the animatronic characters. Now there's just pictures on the wall. It almost feels like you're at Chuck E. Cheese in communist China. Like there are no more characters. Like there's no fun. It just seems like everything's just formulated. Like this is that character. This is that character. They will not move. You will just sit here and watch the music video. Like all they do now is have a screen where all the characters do like a show music video thing.
That costs so much less. That's why. I mean, it's sad. It's sad, but that's really the reason. The animatronics were way cool, and if you were lucky enough to experience them, the animatronic show were really cool. And it's for anyone that's just like younger in the audience, you might be familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's series, which is essentially kind of like based on the real life idea of a Chuck E. Cheese and being just creepy as hell with the animatronics.
I actually heard someone theorizing that Five Nights at Freddy was a major reason of why they're getting rid of those animatronics, because
really
now associate them first with Five Nights at Freddy before anything fun.
Yes, that would make sense. I couldn't believe it. They totally took them out. I was like, this is what Chuck E. Cheese is. Because yes, I love the animatronics. There's actually a documentary, I think it was on Amazon Prime, about the original Showbiz Pizza that Chuck E. Cheese is based out off of, and it had all the characters, but it was called Showbiz Pizza or something like that.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and there's a documentary about how this guy bought the old animatronics and then he set them up to play current music. So you had the whole animatronics from the pizza place, but instead of playing their own like hacky whatever Chuck E. Cheese songs, they were playing like, Smack My Bitch Up. And it was cool because you saw them animatronics singing and playing to Smack My Bitch Up.
I think that was a competing Showbiz Pizza Bear, and like they were around at the same time, I believe.
Billy Bob and the something experience or something. I don't remember. I'm really bad at it, but I remember when we used to go to Disney World, we would drive, and I remember going to a place with Billy Bob, which was a bear that played guitar. And it was like Chuck E. Cheese, but instead of a mouse being the main star, it was Billy Bob. So you're probably right. Maybe Showbiz Pizza was Billy Bob, and it was the competing one.
They were under the same umbrella. Like there's always something competing out there. So I think Showbiz Pizza, they went away long before the Chuck E. Cheese, which, yeah, I guess it's still there, but without the animatronics, it's basically gone away to us folks.
Yes, it's crap now. All it is a place to go let your kid, play video games for like a half hour, an hour. But the problem is, if your kid ever goes to a real arcade, you're fucked, because they think they can play as much as they want because they have a card and they can just keep scanning the card because they're paying by the time. But then when you have to actually put real quarters in an arcade machine, you don't realize how much money you used to spend. It's hard.
Oh, that got me damn good at pinball. Going to the pinball bars around Los Angeles, having a little tiny budget, and if you're good, you get a free game. So I've got to stretch this out. I've got enough money for 2 beers, and depending on how good I am, I may play a bunch of pinball, or I may not.
In Colorado, there is a place called the Manitou Springs Penny Arcade, and they have literally every arcade game you could ever want to play. From every year, just every game is there. They even have games that take like nickels and pennies. It's the coolest place. But again, when you take a 4-year-old who's used to, just scanning a card, it becomes so expensive. But it is fun to play all those old games. And if anyone's ever in Colorado, go to the Manitou Springs Penny Arcade.
When I was younger, I went to a arcade called Nickel World, and that was exclusively all nickel machines, and it was like the coolest thing for me because I got to try all these old sorts of games. It was the first place I tried Asteroids or Centipede, Galaxia, and this place had, I don't know, like probably 40 or 50 machines. It was fantastic. I think we only were able to go there a couple of times because, of course, you have to save up and be able to travel to and from there. And my family was not very thrifty because we had 4 kids at the time.
That's fantastic.
Well, not we. I mean, my parents, me and 3 other siblings.
Yes, I assumed your parents were having the kids.
Yeah, that's much less West Virginia of you. The fact that they were all your siblings, not some of them yours.
Our whole family was only really into games because my dad was. We had the Super Nintendo and both the Nintendo Entertainment System. So we were kind of only a Nintendo household. The biggest game that we played for the most part was Super Mario Brothers 3. That was my dad's favorite, and that's the only game that we ever really played together for any sort of amount of time. He taught me like the cool tricks, like getting the flutes and where you could like sprint behind the wall with the secret blocks, and how to get guaranteed power ups depending on how fast you're sprinting. All sorts of tricks that I always wondered how he learned all of this stuff. Is it just, did he play so much that he figured it out, or did he have gamer friends? I one of these days I think I should sit down and talk to him about this kind of stuff.
It's a good question. I don't know.
How did info spread back then? It's not like you were on the internet.
Right. Well, that is exactly like, the rumors about how Rod Stewart had to have his stomach pumped because he drank so much semen. And what was the other one? The guy
Richard
with the
Gere.
gerbil. Yeah. Richard Gere had a gerbil in his butt. Like, that stuff spread. And it's like, wow, how did that spread without the internet? But it is just friends. Because I remember playing mostly with friends, and friends would tell me, "Oh, jump right there and hit that thing," or "Yeah, you'll go behind the screen." So yeah, but I don't know how they knew. I guess it was just other friends. It's just it is weird.
Throughout the 90s as well. There were so many schoolyard rumors about GoldenEye 64 of how you could get all these super amazing cheats that
sure,
maybe it was your buddy just making it up to fuck with you and waste your time. Or maybe he heard it from the grapevine of someone fucking with him. Who knows?
Oh, I see. Someone named Dead Account said Nintendo Power. Yeah, we kind of said it before. Those Nintendo magazines. That's how people found out about it. Magazines were like the internet.
Yeah, strategy guys.
I have a large collection of my old Nintendo Powers, and like maybe a year or 2 of Game Informer. Back, I used to have, like, my parents subscribed me to that because they thought it was a great gift for me, and they only got me like the first, I think, 6 months, and I ended up loving it. And I would beg for it, like, hey, it's my birthday. Can I get a new subscription to Nintendo Power? Because getting that magazine at the beginning of the month was so cool, learning about these games I'd never heard of. And things that were coming out that I, probably would never play. But I remember in the back, now that we're talking about it, there was a section where sometimes they would be like, ooh, look at these cheat codes for these couple of games. And people would send in submissions to Nintendo Power.
Yep. And 900 numbers as well. Some of the Nintendo Power, like the 900 number, not just for the sex line, everyone got in on the 900 number craze back in the day. Yes. I still remember the WCW, the World Championship Wrestling, 1-900, 909, 9900. But Nintendo Power had a 900 number as well, where you could call and ask for tips.
Now you're playing with Power, and we're playing with your credit card information. Oh no, it was on your phone bill. They just charge your phone bill. Oh my God, to make a call used to be so expensive, Annie. But that is awesome that you got to experience magazines. I can't even believe magazines are still around. But yeah, before the internet, magazines were the fucking shit. And that's all really the internet became, is like digital magazines. It's like, websites are just basically different magazines. But yeah, you used to wait, because I remember my dad used to own a deli, and next to the deli was a newsstand. So every time I would go and, open the store with him, he'd give me some money to go buy like a WWF or a Nintendo Power magazine. And that would make the whole day go by. Like I would just be in that magazine. I'm like, this is fucking cool. Oh, I'm glad we figured this out. Magazine.
One of my favorite things about the Nintendo Power is most issues would come with a little poster. Right behind me, this Metroid poster, that one's from a Nintendo Power.
I don't recall the Nintendo Power. I wonder if they still had those when I was getting Banjo-Kazooie tips back in the late 90s.
Oh, Banjo-Kazooie. I remember that game.
Banjo-Tooie went too far. It was just bigger backtracking. There was a lot of backtracking in Banjo-Tooie, and Donkey Kong 64, I believe the killer of the collectathon was Donkey Kong 64. There was just so much unnecessary backtracking that made those not as fun, whereas it was minimal backtracking with Banjo-Kazooie.
I only played the first one. I don't know anything about the second one. There's a lot of like iconic video games that I feel like I've only played the first one. Like, yeah, the Donkey, or not Donkey Kong. What was it, Diddy Kong? Or, well, I guess it was
Donkey Kong Country was the really Donkey fun Kong one. Country.
Yes.
And then, I actually never played any of the sequels, but I think they were all very similar. Actually, they got rid of Donkey in the second one. It was Diddy and a Girl Kong, and then the last one was a Girl Kong and a Baby Kong.
I believe in 2, you were trying to rescue Donkey Kong, so that's why he was unavailable for most of the game. And in 3, a big gimmick was being able to play a bunch of different one of the Kongs. There was a level where you play as Lanky Kong, the one with the big arms, and he was able to pick things up. The game was very gimmicky, so it wasn't the core platformer experience that Donkey Kong Country 1 was, which is why it's still touted as a classic. Plus, it has fantastic music.
Fantastic music, and the graphics of like the 3D models on the 2D plane was something that was pretty incredible looking at the time.
Yes, it was.
Something that I think is fantastic and a great example of how versatile video game engines can be, which is like the code everything runs on. The Donkey Kong Country runs on the exact same engine as the first Metroid Prime, which is the first 3D version of the Metroid series.
Well, that's fantastic. I had no idea. I really only remember the original Metroid game. I never got big into Metroid. I never even got big into Mega Man. Mega Man was hard.
Mega Man was hard.
Yeah, it's a hard game, but I always wanted to be good at it. Because you got to keep the power of the guy you beat, right?
Yeah, that was like the whole thing. Once you beat the boss, you got the new power-ups, and you got all sorts of new abilities like new beams, new bombs. In Mega Man X, which is like not necessarily a spin-off sequel, it's kind of a side series. You get like the ability to jump on walls and like double dash, and there was so much more cool skills in that game that I felt it made up for the game being so freaking hard. But even then, I still use cheat codes because games back then were just brutally hard because they wanted you to be able to spend a lot of time playing the game because games were expensive, and it wasn't as easy to just have a collection of games like it is now.
The renting of games. I never owned a Mega Man. That was only a rental. Same with Roger Rabbit. Wouldn't own that one. That was a rental that we got along with a VHS tape for the weekend.
Rentals were a huge thing.
Yes, a fantastically huge thing. Because then, yes, you would end up renting the game and then you would end up buying it. But yes, I remember going to my private video store before Blockbuster, and they had a bunch of different NES games. And man, I haven't thought about that crap in years. It's crazy renting NES games.
And of course, the independently owned video stores, they had that nice little curtain that your parents would, an older brother would disappear behind for a while. Blockbuster never had that curtain.
It was either a curtain. It was either a curtain or an old time westerny swinging door. That's what ours had. It was just like a little room, and it was all, porno, and my dad would rent, my grandfather would rent, and then he would go home and make duplicates of it.
My dad was big on trying to scam the Blockbuster too. Once he got a computer that was able to burn discs, he would just copy basically anything he would fucking get from Blockbuster, and he would return, the disc like the day after or whatever to make sure we didn't get any late fees, because that was a huge part of their business model, is screwing you over with late fees.
Oh yes, that was horrible. Well, you don't realize back then a VHS tape was like almost $100 sometimes.
So if you lost it or had to replace it, you could end up being screwed, because you wouldn't be able to rent anything until you paid up your debt, and God forbid you put it on your credit card, and then they start trying to come after you on your credit card.
I was quite the bootlegger in middle school. I had the two VCRs on top of each other and would tape onto another tape, take orders from my other friends, and make some nice illegal copies in middle school.
Yes, that's funny. Tookie used to do the same thing, but with South Park. Back in the day, you didn't get every cable channel. Even if you when you had cable was like, okay, we'll give you the E channel, Home and Garden. I guess you don't need Comedy Central. I guess we'll give you VH1. You don't need MTV. So where I lived, we had no Comedy Central, but my grandmother had it. So I used to go to my grandmother's house and tape South Park, and then come back to where I lived and come and bring tapes of copies to my friends at school. And that's how we learned about South Park, because the first couple of years, we couldn't watch it at home. It's fucking insane.
Yeah. Right, because you had to there was different packages, and some of them were locked behind like what area you were in.
No, literally, just because I lived in the northern part of a state, they didn't carry Comedy Central for whatever reason. Made no sense. I don't think what do they care? Raise the price a little bit. Add some more channels.
We were willing to pay the extra bit.
Right.
Once South Park hit, like all the cable systems got the big demand for Comedy Central. Before then, not a big demand, but my cousins one county over had it for like 1 or 2 seasons before I did.
Yes, you're right. It did. You're absolutely right, Dillon. I almost called you Peter again. But the Comedy Central, it was a crap network until South Park, and that's what got them going, and everyone was like, holy crap, I want this network, Comedy Central. I don't care about the other 23 and a half hours of programming. I want South Park.
And actually, very much like The Simpsons, South Park had a bunch of shit games that were just shot out onto the public until Matt and Trey were finally able to say, no, we are fans of video games. We are knocking this off until the Xbox 360 generation, where Stick of Truth looks like a real South Park episode. And the Fractured Butthole, both those games are such a fun play. And the early ones... the first one I remember was like a first-person shooter where the aliens were invading.
Turkeys. Yes, I remember shooting turkeys all the time.
You started with the snowball, and you could power it up by peeing on it.
Yes, I totally remember that as well. It's crazy. This is fantastic. It is so wonderful to go down memory lane and talk about video games with Dillon and Annie.
I unfortunately wasn't really allowed to watch South Park as a kid because my parents thought, for obvious reasons, that a child shouldn't be watching it. And it's unfortunate because I feel like I missed out on something that could have shaped and made me a more funny person.
Yes, you should. This is why kids end up murdering their parents. You should not restrict your kids. Let your kids discover things. And
even before that, The Simpsons. My household loved The Simpsons. There were some kids at school where that was too dirty. Bart was too rebellious. Do not be like that cool kid on television.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Yeah, I had the same thing. I had friends who were not allowed to watch South Park or The Simpsons or Beavis and Butthead. And my parents were like, watch whatever the hell you want. We steal cable. Why would we care? Like, you know,
I kind of get Beavis and Butthead, but I thank my parents for not having that restriction on me. So little, what was it,
Yes.
5-year-old me, like there for a while, I wouldn't even talk like myself. I just did Beavis and Butthead impressions.
Dylan, we are exactly the same. Yes, there was a good, I would say, 4 to 5 years where me and my friends, we just talked like Beavis and Butthead constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And we must have did it in school constantly. Like, we must have been the most annoying dickheads ever. But yeah, I get Beavis and Butthead too. But yeah, my parents never restricted me. But as you know, parents have to give kids a little more credit. They're smart enough not to, you know, repeat a lot of the bad things and stuff like that. Of course, kids are stupid too.
South Park is pretty accurate with the kids that are filthy, foul-mouthed fuckers around each other, but they know not to do that around their parents.
My parents got naturally less strict as I got older and would allow us to watch more and more things like actual TV shows on Comedy Central and things. So it never really made sense to me why I wasn't allowed to watch South Park specifically. I didn't know if my parents maybe had saw something that personally triggered them and maybe like they were like, "Oh no, we can't have our kids watching that." Because I was allowed to watch Family Guy, you know, and other things, but not South Park.
Yeah, maybe it was the movie, because the movie came out pretty quick after the right? Was it South Park came out? I always think South Park is older.
Season 3, Season 2. It was but after like 2 or 3 seasons.
South Park came out in like 97. I always think South Park came out earlier than that, but I think it was like 97. And I think the movie was like maybe late 98, 99 kind of deal. I don't know. But yeah, we're turning into a remember the 90s show. I'm sorry.
Because there are a lot of properties.
Well, speaking of games and stuff from the 90s, my parents would allow, like whenever we first got our first computer games started being a little bit more popular. And once we got a computer that could actually run anything and had any bit of RAM on it, we started getting all sorts of like learning games. Like there was Reader Rabbit, Putt Putt's Adventure,
Putt Putt. Yes, I recall Putt Putt specifically.
And like Math Blaster, tons of just like supposedly educational games that were mostly just point and click, just play little mini games and counting things. But that's kind of initially how I got into just liking games, is because it was a kind of interactive media I had never experienced. There was, you know, movies and playing with toys and going outside and running around and playing with your friends, but there wasn't really anything like just, you know, interacting with a piece of technology and having something happen on the screen. It was really cool to me.
There was a Pitfall on the Sega Genesis, and a little area that you could get and play the original Pitfall. And for some reason, I enjoyed playing that original Pitfall, getting to there on the Genesis version and just playing that Pitfall original over and over again. Across the alligator pond.
Yes. Yeah, there was something to the Atari. I never owned an Atari, but I had a friend who did. And I would, because he had Nintendo, he had all the other ones, but I was always fascinated with Atari. Because again, they had like licensed games, which always seemed so cool. Like they always had awesome packaging, or like on the little cartridge.
The art. The art sold those so much. Yeah. They looked so amazing.
Same thing with Nintendo. You used to go to Toys R Us and you couldn't actually, you know, pick up the game. You used to have to just get a slip. And sometimes you had to just pick a game based on what the cover looked like. Because you're like, okay, I never played this, but it says it's Popeye. And I like Popeye the cartoon, so this must be a pretty awesome game. And it's shit.
Actually, the freestanding like little mini arcade, we had that with a Popeye game. That was just very simplistic.
Yes, it was very simplistic. I had the game for Nintendo. That's why I used it. I mean, it was whatever. It was fun for a little kid, I guess. But yeah, and the other thing is like video games were kind of the same price back then that they are now. Like it was like you would spend like $60-$70 a game or something like that.
I remember them always being around $60 a game. Mickey's World of Illusion. I recall buying it $60, and that was a real fun one. You could, if you had a second player, you could be Mickey and Donald, and there's certain places that you could go in Mickey's World of Illusion where you couldn't go as just a singular player. different paths for Mickey and Donald as well.
It's amazed me that the entry price for games have stayed pretty consistent almost the entire time. Games like even at
Yeah.
their lowest like high end price are still $40. Even
Right.
expensive indie games are 30, 35, and it's
Mhm.
amazing to me that just the base has stayed the same. Now, newer games, they're starting to be like $70, then you have to buy the DLC with it to have a complete experience.
Right.
So the game ends up being like
Right.
$120, and then they want you to buy the deluxe edition. And then, of course, the whole like monetization method is the microtransactions. They want you to buy new skins and little hats for your characters and new emblems just to show off. And
Yes.
it's so predatory, especially to younger kids, because there's Fortnite, which is a huge popular game. It's a battle royale. A lot of people like to play it. But in school, if you're not fortunate enough to be a family that can afford to spend money on microtransactions, then you can get made fun of at school for not having the newest Spider-Man skin or stuff like that. And I think I couldn't imagine that as a kid being made fun of for not having a costume that my parents paid for.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's a costume for your digital character that doesn't matter. It's all zeros and ones. It's all very stupid. But yeah, like back to the licensing thing. Well, they definitely figured out with the price thing. Yes, they definitely figured out how to get more money out of people with DLCs and skins. And I can't believe kids want skins, but you're right. I guess there is a thing. It's almost like the new shoes. Everyone has the new skin. So I got to get the new skin. Tookie is going to teach his kid to tell all the other kids to fuck your sister's ass. I do not care about your stupid skin. I'm saving
I've got
my
the
money.
basic skin. Look,
Yeah.
I earned this skin. I did not pay for this skin. That
Right.
used to be the way. You beat the game and you've got.
Mhm.
Well, actually, once saving became a thing, like with the Genesis, I remember Sonic 3 being like the first game that I could save with. Of course, the SNES, right out of the box, you had Mario World with the save capabilities.
Yes, that was definitely a feature that blew the competition away, because yes, before then you could.
Yeah, being able to save it right on the cartridge was incredible, because then you didn't have to worry about those. For the younger people in the audience, the older games would have, if you beat a level, they would give you a long, like a whole screen where there's maybe like 50 letters and numbers on it. And you would have to write down an intricate grid of characters. And then if you wanted to, later on, you could come back using that code. So God forbid your parents threw away all your piles of papers that you have sitting near the entertainment center because, you're just cluttering the entertainment center. That was heartbreaking to me, because granted, I should have been a neater kid and put it in like the binder of cheat codes we had, but my parents never used the downstairs entertainment center, so why are they going to throw away my stuff?
A loose leaf papers. Until they did.
Yeah.
Then the PlayStation, they couldn't have the save capabilities on the actual disc. You actually got the introduction of memory cards. That being a brand new technology. The 64, then you had both like a combination. They had both the memory card and the saving on the actual cartridge.
Yeah, depending on how big or powerful the saves were. I remember a huge game for the Nintendo 64 was Turok. Like that was like a 3D game where you played like a dinosaur alien hunter, and you would go through different dimensions and different planets, and there was tons of weapons and different levels, and there was so much on the cartridge that if you wanted to save anything, you would have to get an external memory card and plug it into the bottom of the controller.
Yeah, it's funny you said the PlayStation 1. That is the one system Tookie never had. I went right to Nintendo 64 to PlayStation 2, I believe.
Yeah, the PS1, my brother had that. He had moved out, very much like with the SNES or the Genesis. Most households had one or the other. My brother who moved out, he had the... Actually, he went crazy. He was one of like 6 people who owned the 3DO. Road Rash on 3DO was so fucking fun. Road Rash came out for a whole bunch of systems, and it was just so novel that this motorcycle riding game, you could smack the guy with a lead pipe next to you and knock him off, or you could be knocked off. You could run right into a car and have to
Road Rash
run
was
back.
shit. Yeah, Road Rash was great. I forgot about that game.
Road Rash and Gex on my brother's 3DO were I don't even know if he had any other games, but those I played the shit out of.
Have either of you ever played the GoldenEye 64? That's a huge big title for that era of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the big multiplayer, having the 4 controllers.
Yes.
And now you say locally, you play multiplayer locally, but there was no online back in the day. Having 4 people all on GoldenEye, Mario Kart, and the wrestling games were all big multiplayers for the 4 people.
Yeah, the wrestling games for Nintendo 64 were like next level as far as wrestling games went. I remember, there were some for the PlayStation, but it just didn't go.
They had the creator wrestlers on the PlayStation, the WWF games before they stole that nice studio away from WCW. They had the creator wrestlers, which was really fun. But that gameplay that the WCW games had, and then the WWF got that license. And my favorite game of all time, Def Jam Fight for New York on PS2, used that same engine.
Def Jam, what? I never played that.
Oh my god, it's a bunch of rappers. DMX, Method Man, Redman, Danny Trejo, Henry Rollins are all in the game.
It's such a hilarious concept for a game. It would be incredible if we could get a revival of that series. The problem is a lot of rappers take themselves way too seriously, and there's no way they're just going to let their images get beat up by other rappers that they hate.
Y'all disrespect me. Y'all disrespecting me, but put me in the game and having people. I should be invincible. I should have a power where I hit someone and they just die one time, or else you disrespecting me. Yeah, you're right, Andy.
Killa wanted his finishing move to be something just so outlandish with the bird medallion coming to life, and they were like, we can't physically do that. We just won't tell him. And years later, Ghostface Killa confronted one of the guys. What the fuck? My bird didn't do the thing. We couldn't make the bird do the thing.
What was the name of this game again? Because I totally forgot about it until you started describing it.
Def Jam Fight for New York.
Yes.
The studio was actually making a WCW game. World Championship Wrestling went out of business. So then they were like, what the fuck do we do? And they licensed rappers. To the first one, Def Jam Vendetta, was kind of like a wrestling game. One of the settings was under an overpass, and there's a wrestling ring there. Whereas Fight for New York, they got more into this being like in a club where we don't have wrestling ropes you can bounce off of, but you throw your opponent into the crowd, they'll push him back as if it was ropes.
I have not thought about either of those games. That's fantastic. Thank you, Dillon. Thank you, Annie, for bringing those memories back to Tookie.
Oh, definitely.
It always shocked me seeing celebrity cameos in these games. 50 Cent had his own game, his whole own game, and that was terrible. And then the Tony Hawk games, you always had 1 or 2 celebrity cameos. Tony Hawk Underground, Bam Margera. Now, he wasn't necessarily a celebrity, but he was in the skating scene.
To me,
and he was kind of really popular getting on MTV. And so at the time, he was I would say a B tier celebrity. But it was so cool just seeing Bam Margera come in, just suddenly be like, holy crap, that's a guy from real life. I mean, obviously it was a Tony Hawk game, so it was based on real life.
I was saying the Jackass crew, they were A tier to me. Having Bam, I think eventually they did come out with a Jackass video game that was just dog shit video mini games, like we talked about the Simpsons and early South Park games being. I'm pretty sure that eventually happened, but yeah, you saying Bam Margera as a B tier celebrity. Oh, they were all A tier to me once Jackass hit MTV.
I've never heard of the Jackass video game, but I believe it's out there. There was a Home Alone video game I remember playing on Game Gear.
I had that one too.
You had that? Yeah.
Yeah, you had to just set traps in random houses and hope that the wet bandits hit that house.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that game sucked. That was another game, and it goes back. I wanted to say this before. Atari was the first I remember seeing, but any game that was a licensed show or something you knew always sucked.
Was so bad or unbelievably unnecessarily hard. I remember you two were talking about the a Roger Rabbit being kind of an open world game. There was I believe it was either the Goofy Movie video game. It was so unbelievably hard for no reason. Every enemy could kill you in like one hit. It was, I think, the whole point, like I said, of these old games is just to keep you playing constantly, trying to beat one level.
Yes.
Then you have the Aladdin video game. The Aladdin on Genesis kicked ass. And I heard that the SNES is really good as well. I never got to play that one, but Aladdin on Genesis, fucking awesome. To give you hope for those other licensed properties that, yeah, for the most part, fucking sucked. But yes. I like The Simpsons. I like video games. I'm going to force myself to believe that throwing tomatoes at my schoolmates on Virtual Bart is fun,
yes.
God damn it.
Yes, but you're right. The Aladdin game for Sega was excellent. And there's another excellent Disney game. I can't remember if it was for Sega or if it was for the NES, but the Little Mermaid video game. I remember because I had a little sister. I used to have to play those games, but I remember really liking the Little Mermaid game. And I can't remember.
The artwork was really good in that game.
Yes, they made coral castles out of penises, Annie.
Well, everybody loves that.
That was the VHS cover, too. Yes. They put those coral castles everywhere.
Yes, I don't think they did it in the video game, but yes, I was referring to the VHS cover back in the 80s. Yes, I had the VHS cover with the golden penis. I wish I had it still today. But yes, there was without a doubt a golden penis on the Little Mermaid VHS cover. I would go to my grave believing that.
Yeah, I did not notice that until YouTube became a thing, and they were like, go check that VHS if you got it. There's a wiener. See
that was like one of those things, like we were saying before, like that got around in school. It was like, yo, did you know Disney puts like porno things and things? And it was like, what? What are you talking about? It was like, did you ever see the Little Mermaid cover? It's a penis. Whoa!
The Rescuers had one frame of titties as well. Yes. Like those dirty old men, wherever they could sneak it in.
I heard Dillon mention that his favorite game was Def Jam Fight for New York. Tookie, what was and what is your favorite game?
What is my favorite game, Annie? That is such a good question. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
I know it's so hard to pick just one game. There's such a wide genre of games. There's for me, it's easy to pick. It has to be Halo 2. And it's because it's a really fun and good game. But the real reason I have such an attachment to it is because right around that time when Halo 2 came out, that's kind of all I really like to do anymore was play games. And my younger sister and my younger brother were both really close. So they spent a lot of time together separately away from me. And I used Halo as a great bridging experience for us to be like, hey, you want to just come and play a game of Halo 2 with me for a little bit, or you want to play a mission? And it was great to just be able to sit down with my siblings for sometimes, 4 or 5 hours just playing Halo. Really nerdy shit, but that's what we used to do because we didn't have a lot of other things to do, and it was cold. We used to live up near Chicago, so for a lot of the year, it's pretty cold.
I see JT in the chat calling out Super Mario 3. It depends on which day of the week you ask me if I think Super Mario 3 is better or Mario World is better. I could argue either point depending on which day it is.
Yeah, man. I remember that is crazy too, because I definitely remember the first day I got Super Nintendo. And Mario World was definitely a game changer. I almost want to say, if I'm going with the original Nintendo, I got to say that Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, and it's probably because I remember that crazy week at the beach house. And it's like you said, Annie, it's how the video games affected your life and, what you think about it. Because I remember getting Xbox just because of Halo 2. I had to see what all the fuss was about. And that's why I'll definitely always remember Halo 2. But it's definitely not one of my favorite games, but it is a game I'll always remember because it's the reason I got into the whole Xbox series. Because once I got Xbox, I kind of didn't go back to PlayStation. It's like what you said. You almost become brand loyal to a video game. I don't know why.
Well, it doesn't help that it's so expensive to get into another console. You have to buy the console, and then you have to buy a controller. And if you want to play online, you have to pay for their subscription. You have to make an account with them.
Yeah.
There's so much to just start up and just go to like PlayStation from an Xbox user. So once you kind of get
You're
one,
right.
especially if you buy like the second console in a series, you're like, there's no way I'm going to buy a PlayStation 3 instead of the Xbox One because I already have a 360. So like you just kind of get rutted right into being on one or the other side.
Oh no, Tookie has an Xbox.
And the fun of having 4 people all at once, that's why those that I mentioned have such a special place in my heart. One of my brothers was not as good at Mario Kart as the rest of us, so he would put rules like Wario Stadium specifically. No hitting the lightning on the jump at Wario Stadium. If he was going to be in last place, you're going to get the lightning and you can fuck us on the next turn or the jump. In Wario Stadium, there's those early hills and you can jump and skip. I don't know if it was on purpose or an accident, but you can skip a nice portion of the track. And once we figured that out, so many of us were able to do it.
It was
Maybe
hard.
not the first time, but the second time usually. But my brother, nope, he had to instill rules only on the second lap, and then he would drive up, and just motherfucker. All right, one time. You're allowed to use it one time any lap.
Yes, that's fair. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yes, there was a part in that game where you could jump like half the track. It's crazy. Yeah, because then I think about Nintendo 64, and like you guys said, GoldenEye. That was definitely a game changer for Tookie as far as like the first person shooter kind of thing and having other friends. And then and now that I think about it, Halo was the first time I ever had like a LAN party where you invited other people over with their TVs.
Yeah, everybody's walking in with their own TVs and a stack of consoles and a bag of controllers. I remember that. And then everybody's mom would be upset as hell because they couldn't use their living room or their kitchen. A whole room of their house would be taken up by a whole bunch of people and their consoles.
Mm-hmm. It was fantastic. These were fantastic times.
Whenever I first got into playing Xbox Live, I got I was using my friend's Xbox, and I only had like an Ethernet cord about this long, so I had to play in the kitchen. We had like a family computer in the living or in the dining room, and the router was right here on the desk, and then the kitchen table is right here. So I have my Xbox and the TV right here, and nobody can cross through right here because I'm sitting here, and there's a bunch of cords. It was such a hassle to be able to get online that my parents were like, you know what? We're buying you like 100-foot Ethernet cord, and you can go upstairs. I'm drilling a hole through the ceiling, and we're just gonna get the hell out of the dining room.
It's fantastic.
That's how we got cable in the basement of my house. You had to drill the hole into the floor in order to get it on multiple floors.
I have to do that. I have to do something like that. Because, I have a giant Ethernet cable running from downstairs down the side of the stairs. And it looks like shit. I hate all these wires.
My cable management has always been pretty good because my dad hated seeing any cables and it being tied. If he couldn't go back there and find the thing he was looking for in like a couple of seconds, he would freak out. So all of us that would mess with any of the electronics got really good at making sure everything was easy. Like you could see what was plugged into what and no cords were tangled, because if my dad got pissed off, he was he tended to break things. So you didn't want him to break the TV or, your console or my dad had some anger issues.
Oh, Annie.
My brother, who I mentioned putting the rules into Mario 64, we went through a lot of Nintendo 64 controllers.
Oh, sure.
You can't spike those things and have them still work.
No, I used to punch doors. I had to replace a bunch of doors in my house. Just punching doors. Video games are the worst. Why do they make me so angry?
Because they're like so frustrating because it seems like it could be so easy. I was playing this game the other day. It's called Solar Ash, and I'm on one of the last bosses of the game, and it's really easy. There's not even like a fight. All you're doing is just like jumping from one thing to the other. And I keep messing up on this one part, and I just keep getting more and more mad and getting worse and worse at it each time. And I'm like, why am I playing this? I'm not having any fun. I'm not enjoying this. What am I trying to prove to anybody?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do it?
I don't know any.
I don't know. I guess it's fun.
Feeling all the emotions is feeling something.
Yes, we just want to feel, Annie. We're all so numb. We just want to feel something.
And yeah, they pointed out the cigarette burns on me, so I had to figure out something that didn't leave marks. And XCOM 2 is currently the strategy for me. This week, when we didn't have a game to play, that is what I've been obsessing over, and that makes me feel all the emotions. Like Monopoly. If you play Monopoly, the board game, that makes you feel all the emotions. Oh, by the way, Monopoly on NES is funner than it should be.
Yes.
It had a fun soundtrack, and it was more fun than it should have been.
Soundtrack, because I used to play that at my cousin's. My cousin had an NES, but she didn't have that many games, and Monopoly was one of those games. And yeah, I just remember playing that for hours. But you're right, the soundtrack for that game was awesome. God damn it, Dillon! I think we had the same childhood.
Neat.
You keep reminding me of a shit ton of stuff I forgot about.
Nobody likes to remember things. Dillon, calm down.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm really like, yeah. I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to think of what the song was for Monopoly, but you're right. Like you're 100% right. That was
they
one
had some
of the best
bangers
parts
on
of
the
that game.
NES.
Yeah,
Working with the limited technology that they had. When I hear anything from the first three Sonics, that takes me right back to that time and place. And Michael Jackson, they did confirm, actually worked on Sonic 3. And when they did the re-release of Sonic 3 recently, there is some type of rights issue where they had to replace all the songs on the stages that Michael Jackson had a hand in.
Oh no, that stinks. But that also reminded me of another NES game, because you're right, some NES soundtracks were amazing. But this might be even like one of my favorite songs ever. I actually have like remakes of it on my Spotify list. DuckTales, the video game, the Moon theme.
Ooh,
that's one of the greatest songs ever.
And that one I wish I would have owned. That was a rental for me. For some reason, I never owned that one.
Dude, you have to, on Spotify, there's a metal version of DuckTales Moon theme, and it's fucking awesome. I don't know, it gets Tookie pumped up. But you also have to like the original song, so I don't know. Because I think my kids or whatever, they think I'm gay when I put that song on. They're like, this song stinks. I'm like, oh, this song is awesome.
I could have swore it sucked without the nostalgia factor. I guess I'm wrong.
Exactly. No, yeah, my stupid kids.
Sometimes you go back and it's so disappointing when it's not as exciting as you remember. I've recently been replaying all of the Halo games, and surprisingly, all of them hold up pretty well. Halo 1 is kind of like boring to play through. It's because it's just walking around shooting things. But have you ever gone back to a game and you were like, oh, I'm so excited to play this game again, and then got a little bit into it and you're like, fuck this?
Yeah, actually,
I think the Mega Man games, where I was getting excited about it, and then they were much harder. Well, that's another reason why Mega Man was only a rental. I'd get fucking frustrated with it and not want to play it again.
Yes. There was a game called Bubble Bobble that I used to love as a kid. And then I played it again. I was like, oh, this game sucks. This game's stupid. But I don't know. There's I still kind of like something about that game. But yeah, it does kind of stink.
And yet I can still play Tetris all day, every day. Tetris 99, where you're playing against 99 other people. That's still a fallback. A nice little variation. And once again, the soundtrack from the original Tetris. Dun, da, da, dun, da, 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 da. I've got that original NES theme, so I can hear that theme when I play it on my Switch.
Nintendo has like some of the best soundtracks, I think, very memorable. Like Mario, everybody knows, just the 1-1 theme, and then you put on the water theme, you start vibing along with it. It's amazing how well they were able to package the music with these games. Now, I guess it's not too surprising when watching a movie or a TV show or any sort of media like that. Music plays such a huge part in bringing up and down your emotions that it's really important for a game, especially with any kind of story, to have really good music. A game that I am really excited for the soundtrack of is the new Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto 5 has such a great soundtrack. Now, granted, it's all like licensed music and stuff, but it's all put together really well, especially with like the radio stations with the fake ads and, you know, the background noises of driving and shooting. I think it makes the atmosphere so incredible that honestly, that's one of the only things that I'm really excited for GTA 6. Like, one of the biggest things, I mean, is hearing all the new music. And if you've seen the new trailer, it's going to take place in Miami, which is Vice City. So it's going to be really exciting because it's going to be like 80s themed, because that's kind of the time period it's taking place in. So
didn't they already do that?
Yes, but you know, people
But a brand new version.
brand new game, but in the same city, new characters, new everything.
I heard about.
They keep revisiting the cities. Liberty City is their version of New York, and they keep doing different variations of it. San Andreas has always been their Los Angeles that they do. And since they've gone to PS4, PS5, we've seen New York, we've seen their Los Angeles. Now we're seeing their
brand new Miami.
Their Miami.
That's fantastic.
What I'm actually looking forward to is fucking with the NPCs.
They look so good. They look really lifelike.
Something that I love doing with Red Dead 2 was just going up and just invading the space of the NPCs, and they get pissed off and punch you in the face eventually.
Huh. Yeah, I did not watch the new trailer for Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto is just it's just one of those games that you have to get invested in.
Yeah, there's so much to it. It's like a lifestyle to really play GTA with any sort of vigor.
Right. Yeah, or watch your mouth, Annie. How dare you? But I like getting Grand Theft Auto and getting the cheat so you can have all the weapons and then just going anywhere and just and that's what I think most people like Grand Theft Auto for, because I have one of them on my Xbox, and sometimes I'll just like play it just so I can go and start like a wide fucking city panic and just kill people just because of the fun of it. But I never play missions. Like ever since they stopped having Fez and Patrice O'Neill and all the O&A people on the game.
And apparently Dr. Steve, too. He's in the chat saying that he's somewhere in GTA 5. I knew that Anthony was the voice of Pisswazzer. That's a
he's
real
in 5
fun
too.
one.
Kumail's in 5.
I think that Vice City Stories was the first time they brought Opie and Anthony in, and they never asked Opie back after that one, but they've had Anthony back every time.
When was GTA 5? Like, what are we up to?
GTA 5 was released in 2013 originally.
Okay,
and they've just been adding content on it. The online community of GTA 5 is still making them a shitload of money.
Okay. Is that the last one that came out?
Yeah, it's the most recent. It came out in 2013, which isn't recent, but that's they never released any story updates because all of the story content takes place in the online mode. I believe like whenever GTA Online initially came out, it was about 6 to 12 months after the story mode came out. And the story mode takes place 6 months before the GTA Online story. So way later on in the GTA Online updates, they reference things that happened like back in 2013, which is pretty interesting. It's way too long to stretch the life of a game. It's literally been like 10 years. And apparently GTA 5 still not, or GTA 6 isn't coming out until 2025. So it'll be 12 years in between releases, which is like kind of incredible for a game series that's not dead. Usually that's how long it takes for like a revival.
Right. Dr. Steve says he's on the redneck radio station out in the country. If you're playing, I guess, GTA 5. Wait, so they put out a trailer for a game that won't be out for another year and more?
That's correct. Yes.
And it doesn't list when in 2025. So I theorize they really want to have it out in quarter 1, but it's like we may have to kick the can down to quarter 4 because, they put a fuck ton of work into these.
Won't like technology possibly change like in a year? Like
same console.
Yeah, you're right. That's crazy.
As long as it's the same console.
I had no
And
idea.
you're right, though. Technology is going to change in the next 2 years, so it's going to be interesting to see how it releases on computer, because that's always where that's where the majority of players play nowadays. And it is so
And you
hard
fuck with the
for
code.
them as a developer to develop a version of the game compatible on every single graphics card, because we'll just give like one model as an example. The 380 has the 380 Super, the 380 Ti, the 380 Ti Super, and then it has like other versions made by other manufacturers. So there can be 20 versions of the same exact graphics card. That's a lot of work to put on a developer to make all of that stable across all of these combinations of hardware. So I'm not at all shocked that it's taken them this long to put it out, because GTA 5 has been a infinite money glitch for them for the last 10 years. So they finally, I imagine, have finally started to see a slow in the profits. So like, all right, time to spit out the next game. Now, granted, they did put out Red Dead Redemption 2 in between, Grand Theft Auto 5 and now. And Red Dead Redemption 2 was a huge game. And Husey, who was on our show before, he was a huge fan of Red Dead Redemption. And if Dillon and I had more time to play games, we probably would have talked about that game instead of the Quarry. But fully admittedly, Dillon and I do not have the time to play that big of a game.
Well, I kind of have all the time in the world. You are an adult with a job. I've been dragging my feet on getting a job because I am a frugal fucker, and I've been making it work.
What? You still have no job? What are you doing?
I'm streaming 4 days a week, and I love doing my little horseshit creative writing type of stuff. I love creating little scripts, actual but like pilot scripts and movie scripts. So just a lot of creative horseshit here, live streaming, and just stuff that hopefully one day will get done, because it costs a lot of money to make these pile of pilots that I have.
Yeah, what are you doing for money?
Right now I'm just staring at the wall, but I had a miserable job for a year, and I saved that money. I moved from Los Angeles to somewhere which basically halved my living
right,
expenses.
I remember. Yeah, you have some money saved.
Yeah, I am very good at saving money. So, most of this year I have just been doing my creative horseshit and live streaming. And thank Annie for bringing me onto this show, because getting familiar with some of the games that I have missed, that I didn't really have anything past the PS2 for the longest time. So there's a lot of holes in my gaming knowledge. More than 3. You would think it was only 3, but there's more than 3 holes.
Ew.
Despite it being my biggest hobby, I also have many games that I've not played that people would consider like huge games, like the Batman Arkham Asylum. I haven't played that. I haven't played Mass Effect. There's a ton of games that are really big that I missed out on. I haven't played Fallout 3.
I never played any of those, but I did play the Arkham Asylum game. That was kind of fun.
Arkham City, one of the best games ever. I started getting back into gaming. That was the second one. The first one, Arkham Asylum, kind of like you're in the kind of Metroid-y, people have called it, where the big open world of Arkham City, fucking amazing.
Yeah, it was great. It was very good. But yeah, I've never played those Fallout games. I never played that Twisted Metal. Those are all games that I always hear about, and I just never got around to playing any of these games.
Yeah, that was a fun one back in the day. For some reason, we played Twisted Metal, the original, me and my buddies, much more. Well, I guess that's the only one my brother owned. So he had the PlayStation, so he didn't buy the sequels. We just played the original Twisted Metal and beat Minion there in the final station.
You're right. I think those games originally came out on PlayStation 1, like Twisted Metal, right? And Fallout, maybe?
Fallout originally came out on the computer, and maybe even only Macintosh. I don't know. Fallout 1 is really old.
Okay. Yeah, I've never played any of those games, but I think the reason I never played Twisted Metal was because, like I said, I never had the PlayStation 1, so I missed out on a lot there, but I picked up PlayStation 2 and then 3 and then I think I stopped.
It sounds like I'm being a little Richard Christie with my gaming. JT is pointing out every game I talk about is the best game ever.
It's my favorite,
JT.
It's hard. It's really hard. It depends on what, there was a point where I would say, Madden was my favorite game. But now, I haven't played Madden in forever. It's kind of, whatever games stick with you. And, they're all great. They're all so much fun.
There's some games that I've played for way too many hours. And looking back, it's sometimes I'm a little ashamed that I didn't spend time playing other games. For example, a game that I have a couple posters of is Warframe right over here. I've played, according to my Steam profile, 4,000 hours over the course of 10 years. Now, that's like having a full-time job just playing a video game. I'm like,
what
Warframe? Game? It's a 3D shooter where you play as a cyborg ninja, and all you do is just shoot aliens and collect weapons and upgrade your stuff. It's just a constant grind for more power. Have you ever played Diablo?
No, my older brother did, though. I know of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it's the same concept where all you do at the end of the game is just grind for bigger numbers.
Oh no, Annie, why did you waste all that
Because
time?
It's a lot of fun, and it was an excuse to play with other people, and but at the end of the day, it was a big waste of time. But what else am I going to do? Not play games? I guess I could go outside, but it's always so shitty outside. Now I'm just complaining.
Yes.
It's not kickball season. We missed kickball season. Got to stay inside until kickball season comes back.
Yes, go do an organized manhunt league in your neighborhood. You can do that. Did you ever play Manhunt as a kid?
No.
Oh, really? It's just hide and seek in the dark. It's fantastic.
I probably did. I used to go to some summer camps and stuff like that. So we used to play chase each other out in the dark. So I guess that's as close as it gets.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Grab ass.
Not a whole lot of that.
Dillon, you never played Manhunt?
No. Jailbreak was a variation that we played at night. Kind of like a capture the flag.
Yeah.
Variation was Jailbreak.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it was pretty much the same thing. It was kind of like, well, I don't know. There was actually one team of people who would go out and hide, and then there would be a team of people who had to find them. But the people who were hiding would also have to try and steal something from the team that was. So yes, it was kind of like capture the flag. So maybe we just called it a different name, Manhunt.
Yeah, your Manhunt was my Jailbreak, where a variant of the capture the flag.
Yeah, pretty much.
What was the flag? I don't remember what the point was. Other than whoever's captured, you gotta get them out of jail and break them out.
Tiny Chud in chat, they say Grim Fandango, you total hacks. They mentioned it earlier in chat, and interestingly, just yesterday, I gave Rochi a couple of choices because I didn't know what game to play. I just finished that game, Solar Ash, and Grim Fandango was actually on the list of those 4 games. So after I complete Firewatch, Grim Fandango is the game that I'm going to play in my free time after that.
What the hell is Grim Fandango?
From my understanding, it's kind of a noir storytelling adventure about a Grim Reaper kind of guy who doesn't want to be a Grim Reaper anymore. That's as far as I know. Maybe that's a total misunderstanding of the story, but it's like a cult classic.
Never heard of it. Fantastic. Fandango.
Have you ever heard of Metal Gear?
Yeah, see, that's another one. Metal Gear Solid. I never played any of those games. Was that a PlayStation 1 game?
I think actually
it started on the NES.
Yeah, the original Metal Gear.
All the way back.
Metal Gear started as a Nintendo game on like the NES or the Game Boys. A really, really old thing. Metal Gear Solid, which is when everybody starts knowing like Solid Snake and all of the stuff like that. That started to be on PlayStation 1, I believe. I think that's what you're more familiar with.
Yes.
And the whole lore of Solid Snake and Liquid Snake, I actually got familiar with thanks to Chris Chan and Solid Chris and Liquid Chris. Actually, not the Metal Gear series.
I do see the Metal Gear. I do remember that for NES.
Kojima, he was the big, like he was had a big creative mind in there, and then Konami eventually kicked him to the curb.
Speaking of Hideo Kojima, I believe for our next episode coming up on the 20th, we're going to have Dabblestorian on, and he wants to play a game. I believe it's called Zone of Enders. And according to him, that game was written, and I don't know about directed, but it's pretty much the same thing if you write a game anyway. It's a Hideo Kojima game.
And since Tookie is broadcasting this to his channel as well, we actually have a few super chats. Annie and I aren't monitored. If you look over there at the start, we've got a few super chats we can bring up.
Oh, absolutely. And as usual, on Tookie's channel, he has a bunch of great members, and we have a Fuck Stuttering John and FGH. Who's GH?
I think that's Greg
Hank?
Opie Hughes.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's so hard to keep up with people nowadays.
Oh, Greg Hughes. Not Hank Hill's brother.
Thank you, Vincenzo, for being a member for 2 months. I'm sorry, I did not expect super chats. I did not try. I was just trying to broadcast on my channel to bring more people. I didn't think about super chats,
but that's
this is
okay.
a little awkward.
This episode is definitely brought to us by David Chandler. He sent us 2 back-to-back $49.99 super stickers. So thank you very much, David Chandler, for supporting Tookie. None of that money's going to us because it's on Tookie's channel, and I'm not asking for money. I'm not getting involved in that. So thank you so much for supporting Tookie.
I appreciate it, David Chandler. You're a maniac.
And then we have one more from David Chandler, to a total of $99.99, saying for the war chest.
For the war chest, I will send you guys some money because without your show, I would not have gotten the super chats. So I will send you guys some of this super chat money. Thank you, David.
We have Kirkland Red 100s here. Please talk about Battletoads. Even that's creeping up on my show. No, get that out of here.
Get him off. Get him
We're
off.
talking about difficult.
I will talk about Battletoads.
We're talking about difficult
Battletoads and Double Dragon. That was fun. That wasn't overly hard on the Genesis. They knocked down the difficulty on Battletoads and Double Dragon for the Genesis, and I think it might have been for the SNES too. That was legit fun without being just ball-breakingly hard, like immediately. I think it was the level in the original Battletoads, like level 3, where you're on that scooter and it goes a million miles an hour. That one was bullshit being so early in
That's
Battletoads.
exactly what I was going to say. Battletoads was a great game, yes, until you got to that hover scooter thing that they were hanging on to, and you'd always hit the wall and some shit. Yes, it was very hard. You had to know when to jump, when to go down, when to go up. It was just a pain in the fucking ass. But yes, stop talking about Battletoads. We don't talk about Battletoads
and Aladdin
here.
actually had one of those.
Unfortunately, we have another one from Dang Lizard talking back when we were talking about the Beavis and Butthead. Cornholio, I need BT for my bunghole. BT, Battletoads.
Dingley needs Battletoads for his bunghole. Bunghole.
And then we were talking about Showbiz. American Cupcake for $5 says, in Chicago we had Showbiz Pizza, Billy Bob, and the Rocket Fire Explosion.
That's it. That's what I was talking about, Billy Bob. And I think the documentary I was talking about is called Rocket Fire Explosion. So if you want to watch that documentary, it's pretty interesting. If you like that kind of those animatronic things, it's just kind of weird.
And then the last one we have here is from Chad's Liver for $1.99. Says Mud Shark sits and pees. Because reasons.
Yeah, yes. The Mud Shark.
And Dr. Steve just snuck one in too. Dr. Steve, very supportive of the community.
Dr. Steve for $2. This does not go towards the goal. That one's just to have Dr. Steve appear one last time in the show to say thank you, Dr. Steve, for showing up and watching us.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Steve. You are a beloved chatter and beloved friend.
All right, before we wrap up, we always do a little bit of plugs. Dillon, why don't you go first? Tell people where they can find you and what you've been up to.
Over on Dillon from Somewhere on YouTube, I broadcast live Monday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow is Chatting with Beloved Chatters, joined by Hack Ride and Electra Fry, and they're on the West Coast, so it'll be an hour late at 12:30 p.m., and then more co-host auditions and TikTok around the clock next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern.
And, of course, we have our guest Tookie with us. You are up to a bunch of different things, so go ahead and tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
Yes, you could just go to TookieSoup.com. or patreon.com/BDabbler Network. We just started a Patreon, and it's a little bit extra than the YouTube membership, but you get exclusive Tookie content where Tookie does a up to 5-minute video every now and then, just kind of referencing something that happened today, or just to get something off his chest, something where it's not really a show. We're not doing a show. We're just doing 5 minutes. So there is exclusive Patreon content on there. So if you guys want to check that out. And the only reason we made a Patreon is because we got 2 channel strikes. And I was informed it might be best practice to start a Patreon just in case I ever lose my channel. So we are over there, patreon.com/BDabbler Network. And thank you guys. This was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much, Tookie, for coming on.
Thanks for joining us, going down memory lane.
Until then, we'll see you next time.